What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Underdog Podcast for my fifth video in this series. This is the top 5 offensive tackles in the draft class. We did quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, and tight ends. Those are all up on the channel. If you have not watched them, please go check them out. So this video is going to come out later today, and then tomorrow we will have interior offensive line, and then on Sunday I will have my edge rushers, which will be a very polarizing video as well. But let's get right into this. So some honorable mentions for me are Zach Tom from Wake Forest. Really love his tape. One of the more underrated players in this class, and I think can fit into both like a power and a more pass offense scheme or a zone offense scheme for offense. Bernard Raymond did not make my list. I am a lot lower on him than most people just because I think he's older and a project, so I think that's kind of not a great mix, especially at tackle, although there have been people that have come out that are older that have like turned into great prospects. Garrett Bowles is a great example. I'm just not as high on Bernard Raymond as others. So let's get into the list. At number 5, I have Daniel Falalay, and the first thing that comes to mind when it's Daniel Falalay is just freak. I mean, 6'8", 384, he should not be able to move the way he does at his size. He had never played football until 2016 when he came from Australia to the IMG Academy. Falalay is just like, he's just a mountain of a man. I mean, athletic profile is closest to Trent Brown, but we really haven't seen anybody that has been this size at a tackle that moves this well. Falalay's already one of the best run blockers I've ever seen. He's really he's just a mauler, man. I mean, he just doesn't care who's on the line of scrimmage against him. I mean, he will go out there and he will beat you. Across the line of scrimmage when it comes to run game. He has a great anchor. He doesn't get moved backwards at all, and he actually has pretty good foot speed for a guy that big. I mean, he's able to move really well. He doesn't have the fastest feet, but he does have good footwork moving back for a bigger guy. And he's not going to get moved. Power is not going to work against Falalay. Speed is another question, but and I think another really big pro for him is he's only been playing football for about 5 years to this point, and every single year he has improved tremendous amounts. So I think this is a guy who's coachable. This is a guy that has all the athletic upside in the world. You just have to harness that and really put him in the best position possible. Obviously, there are, pros and cons to everyone. I think cons is he's not, for being that big, it's not like Trevor Pening, who's more of he's going to rip your head off. I think Falalay is more of or not even Kemakwanu, who's, those guys just want to take your head off. And I don't know if we really see that true mentality with him. It doesn't mean he's doesn't have that. It just, we haven't really seen that. And then Minnesota, the way Minnesota runs their offense, they have limited drop back, pass designs in their offense. I mean, he had 535 run block snaps to 301 pass snaps. So he's more on the side of a Kwanu where it's you're going to really need to work on his passing protection profile rather than, his run. I think he's good to go as a run blocker day one, but, his pass block is going to need some work. And then his hands, he's kind of he's slower punch, kind of unsure what to do with them. I think his foot speed is actually really good. Like I talked about earlier, it's his hand speed that I think needs work. And I think a lot of the times if an edge rusher beats him to the punch, I think they can get around him by using a little bit more speed to power. So if he can improve his hand speed, I think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with in this league for sure. So now moving on to my number 4 guy, I have Trevor Pening from the University of Northern Iowa. I think Pening was really at first not viewed as a true first round guy. I think he really had to earn that. And I think he had a really good Senior Bowl. He had a really good combine. He's obviously all these tackles are big, but no one is like Falalay. But he is a big dude. I mean, he is a big dude. I feel like, especially with offensive linemen, there's always that question when you play at a lower level like a Penning or even like a smaller school that's D1, that's not FCS. There's always, can they translate to the next level? And I certainly think Penning can, being 6'7", 325. I mean, he is very, very big in this class. I think the things that he does well is, like I said, he is just to put it bluntly, he's just a dick. He does not care who he's going up against. He will just, he wants to rip your head off, man. So he is definitely, that type of guy. He's wider than most of these guys too. Like, his shoulders are really broad, so he just is able to use his hand speed. I think that's where him and Falalay have differences, is he has better hand speed than foot speed, and he just when he gets his mitts on you, you ain't getting around him. But I think there's big cons to his game. I think pass protection, he definitely needs work from. I think he's far from perfect. Like I said, I think his foot speed is really slow. He's going to be needing hitting those ladders a lot for that foot speed increase. I don't think his hands are as much the problem. It's really his foot speed, and getting back into his kick slide, I think, is really, the biggest critique I have of him in pass game. And then of course, the level of competition concerns. I don't view that as much of a hindrance as some others, but again, it will be something they talk about. And then for me, I think we love that mentality on the offensive line of I'm going to beat the crap out of somebody across the line. But he's so into that he's undisciplined, super undisciplined about it. I mean, this dude needs a coach that sees eye to eye with him and can get him to level his head, because there's just sometimes where he just loses his cool, man. And you can't have that. Kind of this is not an offensive example, but Aaron Donald early in his career lost his head a lot. And got ejected from quite a few games. I think that could be Penning, but then as he matures, he could settle down. A good comp for him would be Anthony Costanzo is a really good profile builder who was a better run blocker than a pass blocker, but turned into a really great pass blocker for Indianapolis coming out. And then my third tackle is going to be Charles Cross. Cross is kind of the one interesting guy of these top three. I think these guys are the consensus top three, but he is the one that is kind of all over the place in terms of board. For me, I have Cross as a top 10 player in my class. I think when it comes to offensive linemen, I think finding a rare, elite pass blocker is more rare than finding an elite run blocker. And that's why I have Cross so high on my board. I think he's probably, if he falls out of the top 10, I would be incredibly surprised. 6'5", 307. He had 919 snaps last year played. 719 of them were pass block snaps. That's absolutely unheard of. So, again, Cross, best pass blocker in this draft class, and it's honestly really not close. He has great footwork, probably the best footwork in this class in terms of pass blocking. Run blocking, that is totally different story. He has really long arms, uses them very well. His punch times are great, and his placements are second nature. I mean, this dude has been pass blocking, under Mike Leach for the last 2 seasons. He's just been boom, 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 boom. And he's progressed on and on every year. I think he's gotten better every year, and you even saw improvement throughout this season. So I think, and again, really coachable guy. And is going to be able to step right in there and be a left or right tackle for you immediately, in my opinion. I think there's obvious concerns with Cross in that he's an inexperienced in any type of run blocking. I mean, I think that and obviously that has to do with the fact that he was in Mike Leach's offense, and Mike Leach just hates running the football. He hates running backs. I think in terms of the one critique everybody has with his pass blocking is depth. I think he needs to get more consistent with that. I think sometimes he doesn't get deep enough, and then somebody with a really good rip move or even a bull rush will knock him backwards. He doesn't have the anchor that I think a Kwanu, Neal, and Pening or Falalay do. I think that's his one weakness as a pass blocker, is that you can beat him with power somewhat consistently. So that's like kind of my main thing with Cross, is that I think he is light on his feet, but there is like the difference in depth that he definitely needs to work on. Comp for him would probably be like Laramie Tunsil is probably the best comp. Tunsil coming out was, I think, a better run blocker than Cross, obviously having played at Ole Miss, but he was like the polished pass protector that Cross was at Mississippi State. And my number 2 tackle, which is number 1 for Daniel Jeremiah, number 1 for some other people, it is Ikem Ekwonu for me. I think if Ekwonu was a guard, Ekwonu would probably be my number 1 player in this class. Currently, he sits at number 4. That's not to say he can't be an elite tackle prospect, because I think he is, and I think he will be an elite tackle at the next level. But I think that Ekwonu definitely needs work on his pass sets. I think he's really inconsistent. He's unpolished, and he's always like hitting his heels. I think whenever you're looking for alignment at kick step, you want to stay at the same width every time. It's just, and your feet move really fast, and then you get back into the kick step. I think that's what Evan Neal does really well. Ekwanu's not tripping over himself, but he's almost like doing that. He's like bringing his feet together, which you don't want. You want to stay wide and have a really good base. And he doesn't, he never took vertical sets in the pass game, just angles. So he's not even like, dropping straight back. It's always at an angle, which is, which you need to be able to do in the NFL as a vertical set. So that he's going to be starting from day one on really getting through that vertical set. And I don't think he's the most agile guy in this draft class. I think he's very, I don't know if he's going to be like the best puller on like trap concepts or even like toss or something like that. He's more of like power guy and just like the guy across from him, just knock him out. I mean, that's Ekwanu's game. But the stuff he does well is, like I said, he's just a bully. And if defenders are in his path, he's going to get him out of the way. I mean, he's going to clear him. And then he does have really long arms, so that's going to help. And then like I said, if he hits that punch, you're done, man. And he has I think he generates a lot of his power from his legs, and the power you see on tape is incredible, man. I mean, there's one clip of Ekwonu. It's like early in the season. I think he's playing Florida State, and he throws up before the play, right before the ball is snapped. Then the ball snapped, and he just pushes this 300-pound defensive lineman down the field. It's crazy. Ekwonu is just absolutely nuts when it comes to run blocking. Comp for him would be it's really hard. I think if he moves into guard, it would be like a Quentin Nelson, but I think he'd be even more physical than Quentin Nelson. And then if you have him out at tackle, you look at guys like, what's his face? Trent Brown obviously is kind of the first name that comes to mind, but I think a decent comp for him is Isaiah Wynn. Was kind of a similar profile. Obviously not as good of a run blocker, but he was a tackle at Georgia, and then a lot of people thought he was going to move into guard, but he stayed at left tackle for the Patriots. I think that's similar, the kind of situation that Ekwonu is in. Now moving on to my number 1 tackle in this draft class, it is Evan Neal, who is also my best overall player in this draft class. Whereas Ekwonu is the best run blocking guy and Charles Cross is the best pass blocking guy or most refined at either. I think Evan Neal's the best combination of both. I think he's the best of both worlds. He really, he's going to be, I think, the best combination of both a really good pass blocker and a really good run blocker. And I think Neal has also, I think a lot of people are talking about Ekwonu as like really having versatility, but Evan Neal can do that too. He played both right tackle and left tackle at Alabama, and I don't know if he played guard, but he also could play guard like if you need him to. Going on to Neal's strengths, I think he's also like a behemoth. He's 6'7", 350. I mean, we've talked about Pening, talked about Falalay as like these just massive dudes, but Evan Neal's like, he's incredible too. I think Evan Neal is the most like explosive out of his stance, and what I mean by that is he's the guy that really like at the snap of the whistle, he's back and he's like in a position like that, man. I mean, I think he's got the best kick slide, kick step in this class, and that even outvalues like Charles Cross. And he's also started a different position every year of his career. So again, versatility, that really helps. So maybe, one of your starting offensive linemen goes down and you have a backup tackle as your swing tackle that you like better, at tackle than you have your interior guys. You can move Evan Neal to guard, put that guy at tackle. So he's very flexible in that. I think cons for Evan Neal is his weight distribution is a little weird. He's always a little bit forward, which if a guy like Khalil Mack has that one arm like bull rush, he's going to get knocked on his butt. So he needs to be more like balanced in his stance. And then I think I think another big weakness for him is stunts. I think when a guy goes inside and then you have a guy funneling out, I think he struggles to pick that up, but that just comes with time and practice, truly, in my opinion. Comp for Evan Neal is probably like physically like Jordan Mailata. I think he's obviously Mailata was raw coming out, but he is way less raw than Mailata was. But physicality profile wise, he definitely like fits that mold. So I think he's the best all around tackle in this class, like I said. And I don't think it's like, I think that's kind of what Sewell was last year, but he's more like balanced than Sewell. Like Sewell was an insane run blocker, but not as good of a pass blocker, kind of like a Ekwonu. But I think, Evan Neal has a size profile, and then he has the combination of run blocking and pass blocking to be the best player in this class. I think the big weakness he has is being too far forward in his stance. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. That is my top 5 tackles for this draft class. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And tomorrow will be my top 5 interior offensive linemen, followed by my top 5 edge rushers on Sunday. So I hope everybody enjoyed. Have a great day, everybody, and peace.